Hey kids, welcome to another episode of GLEN YAPS. Today is the day we talk about volume wars in bands. I'm presently faced with a dilemma in my own band. So I'm going to talk about this in general terms, but I'm going to use them as an example too. This is an ongoing thing. It happens in almost every single band. We have drums, we have bass, we have guitar, we have singers, we have monitor systems, and we have the front house PA that hits the audience, and then we have the audience's opinion in all of this. And it's up to the bands, its members, to find a happy medium on how to work through volume hurdles. So let's start with drums, since I'm the drummer. Drums are, number one, an acoustic instrument. There are electronic drums out there, true, but you rarely see them in bands on stage. Most of the time it's acoustic drums. Why? Because the instrument is a dynamic instrument. Electronic kits don't react the same way as a real drum set. They may eventually get to that point where they can copy drums exactly and cymbals exactly, but there's so many zones on a drum, more than just 2 or 3 like electronic drums do. There's just so many zones for your musical expression that happen on a real kit. No different than guitars and basses and things like that. Anyways, so first off, it's an acoustic instrument. For it to be louder or softer, there's no volume switch. It requires a physical movement to do that. I know a lot of musicians, guitar players and bass players, they fail to understand that. That drumming is physical. It can be, like if you read articles on some drummers that have been playing for 40 years, physically, some of them get to the point they can't play anymore. Like guitar players and bass players have to understand that. It's a change in your whole physical body movements to get a drum set to go louder and softer. Obviously getting it louder is the problem, and you can hurt yourself. Carpal tunnel, tendonitis, and on and on. Your joints, you can harm your joints, you can pull muscles. It's just one of those deals. It's a physical instrument. Whereas guitar players, bass players, keyboard players too, they have volume switches, they have amplifiers, tons of wattage. For them to go up or down, it's just a matter of going up to a volume switch, plus or minus. Okay? And that goes for the sound going to the audience. Now, a drum set in most cases is there's mics on it, and it's running through the PA. So the PA system is actually capturing the sound of the drums, amplifying it for the audience, and now it joins the realm of bass, guitar, and keyboards, and the vocals. Everything is now powered by some amplification going to the audience. Okay, so in most cases, in the perfect scenario, the volume going to the audience is a wonderful thing. It's not bothering them. They can now hear the band as one unit with all the levels roughly the same, and we hope for the best, and everybody has a good time. The flip side is the band has to hear themselves. They also have to hear the other people in the band, and that's where this massive headache begins. So for years and years and years, I either used, obviously, the acoustic drums, but for my monitoring, I used a floor wedge, which is a speaker system beside the drum set to shoot anything back at me that I can't hear on the stage normally. In the old days, that was almost impossible because I don't want to get too technical, but these soundboards, like the one I'm sitting in front of, they used to allow a couple of channels for monitors. So that meant that you could only put so much into those two channels of monitor mixes for people. So normally you want everybody's vocal in there, right? The second one might be maybe the one player had an acoustic guitar. Say the lead singer has an acoustic guitar, and the second one might have the acoustic in it. Rarely did I ever have the luxury of putting a drum set through those, because with only two channels from the main mixer allowing two groups of sounds, so if you already have vocals in one and the acoustic guy's got his acoustic in the other one, you couldn't put drums in there, because obviously the singers don't want to hear the drums, and the acoustic player definitely doesn't want to hear the drums. He can hear them acoustically behind him. He doesn't need those in there. But for a drummer, you're usually between the amps or behind. So there's always a volume and fidelity issue we always have to deal with. So as years moved along, you know, advancements in soundboards and that, you could get monitoring boards now that are soundboards that incorporate everybody having their own mix. And while that sounds good for part of it, there is a curse to that also. So now I don't normally like drums in my monitor system anyways, but at least I could go, well, if I wasn't hearing all the vocals, I could put those in there, but I could also add more of my vocal in my own personal mix. So everybody had their own personal mix. Depending on the equipment, because some monitors back then were just not powerful enough that, you know, that we could afford. So basically everybody could be roughly happy with their own mix. The problem is, once you do a sound check, that's the joke there, because once you get the sound check done, it isn't like 3 songs after you start that everybody is not happy with the mix after. And why is that? Because normally at sound check, people play quieter. When they're in front of an audience, they play harder, play more aggressively, whatever the reason. The volume just goes, and it happens in every band. It's an adrenaline thing, I don't know, it's a stupidity thing. But anyways, it's a pain in the ass. So you do a sound check, and basically it's for nothing, because the whole thing changes 3 songs in, or whatever. I'm using the 3 as a rough thing. So then everybody says, well, I need more of this, I need more of this. I mean, you know, everybody just and the volume just keeps going up. The problem bands have is you can't just keep turning shit up. You just can't keep going up and up and up. I've tried to tell people this, I don't know how many times. You can't just keep moving the volume up. I've had audience members come up to different bands I've played in and go, we can't hear this. Can you turn that up? You can do it within reason, but eventually the band is so stinking loud, you have to bring shit down around the thing that's low. So if the lead singer can't be heard, the band has to be brought down in volume, not the singer being pushed up. There's a point where you get where the volume becomes stupid loud. Okay? And I've come across this with a few bands, and I'm feeling I'm having this issue again. So you can tell musicians to turn down, but there's a mentality, a stubbornness, a stupidness that this is my comfort zone, and I'm not moving from there. Right? That's the mentality. It has nothing to do with you fucking up people's hearing, overpowering the band, overpowering the audience. It has nothing to do with that. It's stupidity, stubbornness, and I get totally sick of it. Now, drums are a loud instrument to start with. So there's ways drummers can get around that. You can play smaller size drums. You can change the drum heads to double ply, which warms the sound, brings the volume down a little bit. You can put carpet under your drum set. You can put shields around the drum set. You can use darker cymbals that aren't as harsh. All this costs a lot of money. To have choices like that on with the drum set, it costs money. Okay? Not using that as an excuse, that's the fact. So, normally, like I say, drums have a volume that is an issue to deal with. Okay? The band has to work around that volume. The other issue is if you have members of guitar or bass, what are their issues? If they're running 100 and 200 watt and 500 watt amplifiers, that is loud equipment. A drum set cannot compete with that acoustically. It just can't. So, are we hearing impaired? Are we using hearing protection? What are the monitors like? Is your singer getting killed? Can your singer hear? All these factors start coming into play. And you can get into a real band war with this. So the dilemma that I'm personally faced with is I don't like the floor wedges, floor monitors like I used to use. What ends up happening is the drums are mic'd, right? They're being amplified by the front house PA. They're not being amplified on stage. They're being amplified to the front house. The drums are always the same on stage, normally, in 90% of the cases. The drums are acoustically, they're set up, they're put mics on them. On stage, they're always that sound. And it's up to the drummer to be louder, softer, stay in the middle. I've always been this drummer that's played in the middle. I don't like breaking sticks. Drumsticks last me, a pair of drumsticks will last me 6 months, sometimes even longer. When I start breaking sticks, then I know I'm playing too hard, and that means the band is bringing me up in volume because I'm trying to compete with them. I've been playing 40 years. I know if my drumsticks last for 6 months, I'm in a zone where, okay, I'm not playing too soft, obviously. I'm not soft, but I'm not playing to the point where I'm killing people. Now, if I start wailing on them like swinging a jackhammer or an axe or a sledgehammer, and the sticks are flying and breaking all over the place, well, then I've got a problem. But I've done things to my kit to bring my volume down to a point where I can live in the zone with the rest of these guys. So I even brought my hi-hats down lower so the space is between, so I'm not doing the big arm swings. I'm just doing finger motions with the stick in a space this big. So it's not like I am ignoring the situation of volume. I am trying to figure out a system. So I eliminated floor monitors. Because what happens with floor monitors, whatever their vocals and everything I got coming through there, start picking up in the drum set, in the microphones. And it starts to become this recycled sound that just keeps going through the system over and getting louder and louder. So we eliminated that. I went to smaller drums, changed cymbals, brought carpet in under the drums to help muffle it with rubber back, not just regular carpets, get rubber back so it absorbs the drum sound more. Drum sounds really shoot up and down. You get spread out front a little bit because the kick drum's at, but really if you're standing over a drum set, that's where, or below it, that's where the sound is the most powerful on a drum kit. So I spent a lot of money switching over to in-ear systems in the last little while. And I'll be honest, I loved it. Like the first time I did it was somebody else was controlling the sound and the EQing, and I hated it. I couldn't stand it. But since then I've got my own system. I'm controlling my own rig. So in that sense, I have all my drums in my in-ears. I can put guitar in there, which I do have everything set up for that, and bass and vocals and my vocals. So I can control everything in my own in-ear mix. It won't affect anybody. And it's been great. Now I can bring the drums up in my mix. I can play in my comfort zone. You know, totally relax. My drumsticks last 6 months. If the guitar player's too loud, I turn it down. If the bass is too loud, I turn it down. If I can't hear my singer, I turn them up. And it's just in my mix. I'm the only one in my band using in-ear mixes. My singer, who normally plays acoustic, has a monitor in front of him. And so he would have his vocals, his acoustic in there because it doesn't have an acoustic amp. Lately he switched to electric. So he's got his amplifier right behind him, which is kind of offset from the drum set. So he can hear that within reason. Then we have our bass player, who's got a huge amp. He's got his own powered monitor, and he's got a vocal mic. So we run his bass rig direct into the main PA. We have our guitar player. Guitar player, similar idea. Big guitar amp, at least 100 watts, probably more. It's mic'd. He's a lead singer, and the microphone also in front of him because he sings. So we have 4 vocal mics, 3 across the front, and then mine. So here are the negatives. I'm running in-ears. Those 3 guys are using monitors, powered monitors now. Technology has changed now that monitors all have their own power amp in them. So you can control your own volume. We have a guitar player who's got a birth defect for hearing. So he's already at a disadvantage. He's deaf in the sense of he just doesn't have normal hearing like myself or my singer or my bass player. So I've had previous bass player who also had hearing defects. It's a strange situation. So while my guitar player hears everything clear but at a lower level than us, right? So here's all the frequencies, just everything is at a lower volume. That makes sense. A bass player wears in-ear musician's earplugs. So what that does is, obviously protects his hearing, brings down the level. So it takes the whole level, brings it down. And the thing about musicians' earplugs is it knocks out the harmful frequencies. It's not like those foam plugs you put in where it blocks everything. It picks the frequencies, but brings it down. So the fact is, his hearing is impaired by using musicians' earplugs. Now that sounds like a goofy statement, but where his normal hearing is without them, it is now protecting his hearing, but bringing levels and tones down or eliminating them, okay? Puts him in the same boat as a guitar player who has a hearing defect. So this is what I got. So then I got a singer and myself with almost perfect hearing. Okay, my singer is definitely better than mine, but his and mine are way better than the situation we have with the other two guys. So this is where we run into and we did last night, where my singer and I, we were done. By the end of the night, we were done. We were so fed up. So we play a bar. The bar itself, every venue has a sound to its own. Like no two venues sound the same. So the venue we played last night, where the stage is a concrete bunker. So it's got overtones, it's got echo, and it's really hard to deal in a good sound for stage, let alone the front house. The front house seems to be easier than the stage. There are a few venues like that around here, all with this cave echo kind of thing. And sound baffles would help, but you know, it's just one of those things. It's a fact of life as a musician. You walk into a place, some places sound good, some don't. That's just the way it is. You do your best and go with it. So the problem I have is and I don't know why the mentality changed is, but it seems to be that the amplifiers, they want to set them at the same volume. They figure the same, my settings should be the same at every place. Really? Yeah, well, I disagree with that, but because what I just explained to you, every venue is different. But for whatever reason, the mentality is, didn't touch the knobs on my thing. It's still the same volume we always play at. That is just, to me, that's a joke. It's just not like that, because the venue dictates volume. The venue dictates the tone. If you just leave that sound there in an echo chamber and then walk into another place that there's lots of carpeting and it deadens the sound, volumes change. But I could not get this point across. And I have a problem too when you go into a venue, is the band should start low first. Always start low first. Find a happy zone at a low volume. To come out like blasting right first 3 songs is just nuts to me. So the problem I had and have been having is the volume of the band has increased. And I have a mixer now beside me for my in-ears so I can control things. I don't even have the guitar and the bass even in the mix anymore, because the problem now is they're so loud on stage. My drum mics by themselves are picking them up, those instruments up, running them through the in-ear system and actually red lighting my soundboard. And I can explain this to the band, and it seems to not connect. Like, I'm red lighting a board that I'm not even playing in with your sound, and the mics aren't even on your gear, that is a sign you're too fucking loud. Like loud, okay? It's simple math, simple physics. Turn the fucking things down. Like, I have an in-ear rig where I can hear my drums, where I can play quiet, and if I need the drums louder, I just turn my drums up in my mix. I don't have to play harder. But when the other instruments are now bleeding so loud into my own and drowning out my drums, I can't turn the drums up. This is the point they're not getting. I can't turn my drums up to hear myself because your gear is too fucking loud in my drum mics. Your sound is now swallowing my drum sound in my in-ear mix. And I had a discussion with a drummer who actually helped me a lot in past years with this in-ear system, because he uses in-ear system. He plays down south, lots of big venues. And he never heard of such a thing. He thought it was crazy. I just went through it again last night. So we talked about this. And I said, what's the solution? So he suggested drum triggers, because drum triggers trigger module sounds, and you're not using the acoustic drums. And that way you don't need the microphones. But here I am back into getting into electronic drums. And for me, I played acoustic drums all my life. I have an electronic kit for practicing, so I don't disturb my wife in that. But the sound, I can't stand the sound. I can't stand the feel, can't stand the sound. I might be able to adapt to it, but I won't be a happy camper. But it comes down to, do I switch to that, spend more thousands of dollars going into electronics to bring this volume thing down, and still not be happy with the way I can play? So the volume issue for the drums that's not the issue. Like, I can play quiet on a drum set. The problem is the sound from them is going into my mics. It's bleeding into my mics. So I have no control acoustically to stop that. All right? Because right now I was totally comfortable for years hearing my drums and controlling them and setting my own tone and volume and playing at the volume I like and making my drumsticks last for 6 months. But now it's swallowing up the sound, so I'm getting my drum sound in my mics, and now they're overpowering the drums. I have no control of that. I have zero control. I can bring all the volumes down, but now I defeat the purpose. I'm now taking my drums and their sound, lowering them in my in-ears because they're bleeding into all the mics. Now I don't hear my drums anymore. I'm right back to where I started. With floor monitors, which was, I always thought, I couldn't stand floor monitors. I just hate volume. So anyway, I'm trying to get this point across. Like, even, like, the problem they aren't understanding is I can't turn things down because everything is fighting into the same microphones. So I finally just shut it all off. So now it's like I'm at the point, like, I had it all shut off. I can't hear the vocals. I can hear them because they're still loud. I can hear them because they just bleed through my earbuds. So my guitar player last night, he was frustrated as hell. He was losing his voice. Yeah, it was definitely not a happy time. So we've always talked. I always say, well, I don't hold shit back. Like, when my hearing is involved, you're going to get it. I'm going to voice my opinion. So the problem too is the area where we play in this particular venue is longer. It's a longer stage kind of setup. So they're further away from their amps. I always try and tell bands to tuck into the drums. Again, nobody listens to the drummer. If you tuck in closer, you'll hear your amp. You won't have to turn it up louder to hear it while you're standing 10 miles away to your microphone. So the other issue is we've got this guy with a hearing impairment, this guy wearing earplugs. So what do you think happens when you've got to turn up your vocal mic? Their vocals are going to be louder because they have to hear them through their impairments. Or the singer and me have a regular hearing. Right? So now, whatever they adjust for their deafness or for the in-ear protection is now up, so they're comfortable with it. But to us, with no impairments, no physical earplugs, their volumes are nuts. Can't tell them, you can't tell them that you're too loud. They don't want to hear it. So it gets this point like, okay, now I'm starting to play harder. I can feel myself losing control because I'm a finger player with the drumsticks. I can feel myself losing control. That's not a good sign. That will stop because as a drummer that I've been playing this long, that's not going to happen. That's coming to an end. That cannot go on. I cannot lose my hearing and lose control of what I'm doing. So all bands go through this. It's not always a happy thing. But there comes a time when it starts to affect the band's playing, but it also affects the audience. So we've been told we're too loud. I know we're too loud. Okay? Lots of bands locally are too loud. Okay? You know who you are. Too loud. You know you're too loud, but there's a mentality that, you know, it's our show and we're still going to do the way we want to do it. But eventually that's going to catch up to all of us. I hear people talk about it all that they come up to me all the time. The problem is I have no control in this. I'm a hired gun. It's not my band. If it was my band, I would find a happy medium. Okay, that's one side of it. The other side of it is you can't please every audience member because just like musicians, they all have different levels of tolerance. And if you favor each one of these audience members to try and cater to their tolerances, you will lose your effing mind. I know this from experience with audiences because I can have 10 people come up and tell me all different things. Musicians watching the band, they'll come up and suggest all different things. Everybody thinks they're a sound tech, okay? So you have to average it out. Who's right and who's wrong? Volume. When you get enough complaints about volume, you're too loud. And if you ignore it, well, your audience is going to vaporize. Because, like me, I enjoy my hearing. And I want to have it till the day I die. And I'm 60 now, and I've got just a tinge of issues, just a tinge, but I was cautious and protected my hearing for years. So, The problem we have with most bands now is stubbornness. They're not willing, musicians for some reason are not willing to listen to alternatives. Okay? I don't know when that shit started, but back in the old days, we should try and figure shit out. Try and play happy. Try and get to a point where, is this okay for you? Is this okay for you? Is this okay for you? Is it okay for the singer? Bottom line, if you kill your singer's voice, you're not going to be playing. So if you're such a stupid volume, and your singer's one monitor is just coughing out because you can't hear them, and you're too stupid to realize that, you won't be playing long. So, for me, I'm at a hearing protection mode right now. I said, last night was the first time I came home and my ears were ringing like crazy. That with in-ears is dangerous. Because with in-ears, there's no escape. Right? People don't understand this. If something goes wrong where there's a high frequency in that, their only defense is to rip it out of your ear, and if you're playing a song, what are you going to do? Reach over to your device, slam down some volumes, but by the time you do all this, damage is done. Where in-ears have a great value, they have a danger in situations like that. But that danger also exists with floor monitors. If something happens where the volume is increased by whatever, some kind of shorts or whatever, it's still going to come volume, it still can hurt your ears. That can go out to the fronts, to the audience. Excuse me. There's so many things, so many factors happen, but point I'm saying is we've got to get on the same page, get a controlled situation. You have to adapt. Every band you have to adapt to. Every audience, every venue, you have to adapt to it. You can't just go in blatantly and just go, I always play at 9 on my volume and that's where I'm staying. Fuck all of you, that's where it's staying. I don't give a shit if you can drum louder or softer or whatever. This is my volume, that's where I'm staying. Okay, we can't have that. That doesn't work. You know, people's hearing are at stake. So there has to be a happy medium. Now, if you've got hearing impairment, it's time to realize you have to take that into consideration. If the hearing damage is from years of playing loud guitar, loud bass, loud drums, loud whatever, I don't care what it is, then it's up to you to find a situation that makes you happy that doesn't kill the rest of the band. And if you want to wear hearing protection, you have to understand that you're making your volumes comfy for you, but you're killing the rest of the band. And the singer, if he's blowing his voice out because he can't hear himself or he can't hear his guitar, acoustic guitar in the monitor, because the rest of the band is too loud, he cannot continue to blow out his voice. He will damage his voice. He may never sing again. He will not have hearing. So he has to convey to the band, enough's enough. I'm at that point as a drummer. Enough's enough. Okay? These new power amps and shit go to astronomical volumes. It's not like the old days. We have speakers now that are this big that can go to 2,000 watts. 2,000 watts. Okay? Try cranking your house stereo, which is 100 watts, 200 watts. It'll take your head off if you're sitting on the sofa in front of you. 2,000 watts. That's just a minimal number. There are more that are higher. An acoustic drum set is battling this. And they wonder why drummers get louder and louder. No, I'm not sticking up for all drummers. Some drummers like to bash the living shit out of the drums. Well, you're in the boat where you've got to learn to back it off, or you're going to deafen your band. So I'm at the point now I'm playing too hard for where I like to be. I've said this numerous times. I don't like playing in that zone. Never did. So I understand the element. Some people like that. Whatever. But there is a point where it's like physically I cannot do that. And I'm at that point now on my kick drum and snare. Definitely, the kick drum. Believe it or not, the kick drum is getting swallowed up where I can't even hear it in my in-ears at all. I have to look at my foot to know what I'm doing. That's a surefire sign to say, you guys are too fucking loud. You're drowning me out, where I have to look at my foot to know what I'm doing. And I'm actually running in-ears. And my kick is in there. But your levels are overpowering it. Like, how crazy is that? It's crazy. And like I said to my friend that we're discussing, he's never heard of that. Where it was going in the in-ears, drowning it out. And it's like, that's where I'm at. So, frustration, yes. But I've gone and seen a few bands around town that are as loud or louder than us. I don't know how you do it. But you can't maintain that. That's just, it's just horrible. And I don't want to be loud for an audience to the point where they leave because we're too loud. And that's a sad thing, because the band is good, and all these bands are good. All these loud bands are good. They don't have to be loud to be good. I don't know why they're loud. And we're in the same boat. We've gotten louder, and it's just not a good thing. I don't like it, and some of the audiences are getting tired of it too. You get fatigued. So, the dilemma, I'm not sure what the answer is. Like, I have a drum PA that I would use on like a bigger venue that plays at low volume beside me. I still run my in-ears, but it's just something that I can at least feel a little bit of the low end behind the kit. But I haven't used it with this band. I don't want to use it with this band because we're already too loud. So right now the in-ear thing has been fine and I love it, but now it's become, it's flipped on me. It's working against me now. And I've got mics on the drums, and now they're a curse because they're picking up the volumes of these guys around me. And to top it off, the volume of the vocal monitors is so high for those guys that that's being picked up in the drum mics. And it's an ongoing power thing of volume. Just, it's escalating, getting bigger and bigger, and the sound is starting to roll. It's just a horrible, nutty experience. It's out of control. Gotta stop. I can't keep doing that. The singers, we talked last night, he can't do it either. So our band is definitely for this particular venue, it's never been easy to get sound in this venue, and we love playing this venue because the staff and the audiences are great, but we're becoming our worst enemy on stage with this volume issue. Like when you're doing big venues and outdoor things, you don't notice this issue as much, but when you do smaller venues and you shrink the stage, you can't go in running the same volumes. Try and tell these guys that you cannot go in running same volumes. You got to start low and work from there. But stubborn musicians are stubborn. I played with probably the loudest band ever, Southern Guns. That was the effing worst experience I've ever gone through in my life. A good band that did not want to listen. They did not want to turn down. The keyboard player was just crazy loud. The guitar player was crazy loud. And the main singer was, he was in charge of the whole sound, and it was just stupid. I was breaking so many sticks. I couldn't believe it. I finally quit the band. I said, I can't handle this. I can't afford it, for one thing. It's a pair of sticks, It's like, holy Christ. I was just going through them. I said, I can't play this loud. Don't want to play. I just came off the road with a hard rock band, and we were half the volume. Half. And my sticks would last 6 months. As soon as I got with the Southern Guns, they were just so effing loud. It was just a joke. They had this big brand new community rig, and I just wanted to punch the shit out of it. It's just, goodbye. So, you got to get the stubbornness out of the way. I have a recording studio here. You learn a lot about sound, volumes, and what works, EQing. Like, people think, oh, we want that PA system to just punch. So they turn up all the bottom end and let those speakers just rumble. That's all they do is rumble. There's no definition in that low end. It's just some flappy, sloppy sound that just, vibrates your ass. It's not a clear sound. So when you run a studio, you understand that low end, that's actually a curse too. So you try and roll some of that off. You can get more definition and punch by moving up in the frequencies on an EQ. That low end that just rattles your ass, I don't know why people like it, but it ends up just, and it comes with kick drum, it comes with guitar, it comes with bass guitar. If you like that low end thing, you're definitely going to have trouble with your sound. I guarantee it just from knowing this shit from recording studio. Because when you're doing a recording studio, when you get to the final product and you hear this, why is my kick drum, why is the bass not defined? It's because you left all those low end frequencies in there. You never rolled them off. You never got them out of there. What that does is just build up and becomes a garbage can at the end. It kills your clarity. It gives you that rumble you want, but there's no clarity. And you lose volume. You actually lose volume by leaving that rumble shit in there. And I don't like kick drums like that. I'm not in charge of my own kick drum and stuff because I'm a hired gun. But that low end shit don't work. So, got to research it. So anyways, that's where I'm at. We got to play tonight. Everybody was frustrated last night. We had sound issues. The other problem we have a couple of sound rigs, and our main computerized rig that lets us all have our own mix and stuff. So we didn't use that one last night. We used our regular small club rig, and it just don't cut the mustard. It cuts the mustard front house wise, but monitor wise, it's only got three sends, 3 auxiliary mixes. And the issue with that is you have 4 guys that need a mix. So some guys have to share. It just doesn't work. Because someone gets left out in the dust. So they're never happy. And I can totally understand that. It works in small venues because you don't need as much in each of these monitors. But last night was just a learning curve of a bad thing. So you're dealing with musicians now that each have their sound. They like that sound. They like that volume. And where does it go from here? I don't know. but it can't continue like that. It didn't work last night. It hasn't been working the odd show. So we have to figure out the happy medium. Because I don't like playing loud drums. I don't like going to a bar and hearing a drummer beat the fuck out of the drums either. I just don't like that. I don't like doing it myself. So when I've had issues with people telling me the drums are too loud, there's so many things that I can do to try and do my best to bring my volume down. I can't go to the volume where they want it down, like the drums aren't there. I mean, you have to understand, you know, a bit of logic. I've also found, this is funny, I've also found that the loudest person in the band is the one that always says they can't hear shit. Isn't that just funny? They're the ones that say, you guys are too loud. But when you do a recording, when you do videos, they're always the loudest one in the band. They're always that. And it's not this band, but I've been in other bands where, yeah, that person's, I need more. I need more. I can't hear myself. And then when you get the mix, they drown out every effing instrument on stage because they're the loudest. So you have a problem. You know who you are. You have a problem. Your hearing's fucked. Or your ego's huge. One of the two. So one thing about Soundcheck, we record videos a lot, but I can hear where the imbalance is. I work in a studio here. I know where the issues are, but it's not my band. I can say, this is too fucking loud, this is too loud, that's too loud. Can't hear this, but it's not in my place to say it. I can voice my opinions when it starts to hurt me. Oh, that's a definite. Yeah. So anyways, so this is a rant. I don't know what the fix is. I was happy with my in-ear rig until the last couple of gigs. And I'm playing out of my zone. So we have to fix something. We'll have to find a happy medium. We have a good band. So it's not something that we can't achieve, but we definitely need to work on something. So it can't keep going like this because our singer won't last for 2 gigs. I mean, he sings pretty hard now, but you can't. There's no way I can blame the issue last night for him abusing his voice, because when I got home, my ears were ringing. How do your ears ring when you're running an in-ear monitoring system that you control? Now, it was fine for all my drum stuff, and then the rest of it just got buried in outside noise. So, new experience for me. Don't know the answer. Please let me know if you have a solution. Triggering drum, like doing electronic drums, is not an option. So we have to find something where I don't have to change my 40-year career from acoustic drums to electronics live, because I won't play electronics live. Too many ways and things to malfunction. Not into that at all. So we have to find a happy medium, because I was happy and now I'm not happy. And when Glen's not happy, start running, because I will start wringing necks. Anyways, that's the scoop. Rant over. Let's hope tonight is better. Thanks for watching.